Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Scorpio May 2024 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel St. James, clairvoyant. Well, this month we have an interesting deck, a famous deck, the Thoth deck. Anyway, what is the case, though, is that the woman who painted this was a genius. She got it. I don't think she got it from Crowley. I think a lot of what she got, she had previously obtained from a guy called, what was his name? Rudolf Steiner from Austria, who was a mystic and educationalist. And I think Crowley's major contribution to this, maybe I'm doing him a disservice, is to come up with dumb titles to some of the minor arcana cards. Now, if you're interested in a clairvoyant reading from me, which I do for people all around the world over FaceTime and Skype, done a lot over this last month for people, then the details are in the description. I charge for that, I have to. But what I do not charge for, and which I also, if you're of a mind to, encourage you to, don't be afraid, don't be shy to reach out, is I was given a spiritual gift of healing, whereas that the healing comes through me and not from me, as you would understand. And it's my soul contract to provide that. So, and that can range for anything. And I'm very happy to do it because I have to. That's the way it is. But now let's get into these cards, shall we? And show me the magic. 5 of Cups, that would be. Death. Nice Scorpio card. Princess of Wands. And finally, on the way out, 5 of what? Swords. Well, why don't you and I'll bring the camera around, why don't you and I have a good close look at the imagery on these cards together, check out the artwork, which is superb and which I'm going to springboard off, and let them speak to us both while I do the reading for you. Now, I mentioned that Frida Harris is the real heroine of this deck, and as a result of that, in honor of her and in honor of women generally, I've put some things here that some women like. These cards I sometimes use in readings for female clients are things that some ladies like, which are handbags and shoes and things like that. Now, there's a couple of 5s here that are linked together, and I think they relate to things in the past. Not so difficult for you, though, because there's a lot of Scorpio energy bringing you through. Tremendous Scorpio energy here, bringing about change from these conditions, which I'll get to in just a second. Then you move forward brilliantly, and there's marvelous new starts and happiness, success and abundance with you. I want to have a look at this first one here. I think these are things to think about, things that have gone on in your past, you know, and to think about just letting it go because they are in the graveyard now. Here is the 5 of Cups. Well, this is Mars, your planet, ruling the first decan of your sign, Scorpio, so it's not as bad for you as it might be for some other people that are here. Now, these cups, well, they're glasses now. They've become empty and they're fragile. And this pentagram that's there, the 5-pointed star, it's pointing downward. Do you see that? It's pointing downward into that cup, indicating the victory of matter over spirit. And a hot wind seems to have uprooted the lotus and wilted the blossoms, and the salty water is dead. Now, I think that maybe there was here for you some expectations which were much too big, some unexpected event perhaps, only a thoughtless reaction maybe, has ruined something in the past for you, kind of suddenly. And this energy dominating this scene now means, I think, that there has probably been something smouldering beneath the surface with you for a longer time, and you may have overlooked it, perhaps because you didn't want to admit to its existence. And Maybe you ignored the warnings of your inner voice, but now you have to face the sobering facts and look them in the eye, but you've got the courage to do so. Because remember that every disappointment contains the possibility of an important learning experience. And I say that because the roots of the lotus plants here, they're coiled in the shape of a butterfly, the symbol of transformation. For the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Now, excuse me, I'll just bash my head into the thing and give myself concussion. Now, I think, look, maybe something didn't work out as expected previously. Well, this is saying don't wallow around in self-pity and ruminating and thinking about it with regret, because there are now new and better experiences in store for you. I think the actual key here is that either some much too high expectations of yours have been crushed, or deep inside you lurks the fear of some disappointment again. Well, now, it's a good time to sit back and to look at your real situation. Look, in what areas of your life do you fear disappointment? And what have you learned from disappointment and disappointments that you've experienced until now? I mean, we've all had them. And say this to yourself, though. I get to know my own reality by learning to see where I fool myself or where I deny my inner voice. And then we turn next to, where's that linked card, which is being crushed by the Scorpio energy here and being pushed away. And it is this, the Five of Swords. I think Crowley's greatest contribution to this deck myself is that he came up with stupid titles for major arcana cards, and this is one of them. What's more important here is that it's Venus ruling the first decan of Aquarius. Now, Venus rules Taurus, which is an earth sign. It's the fixed sign of earth, as you are the fixed sign of water. And here we have Venus ruling an air sign, because Aquarius is the fixed sign of air. And the two are at odds with one another. Venus really is about relationship. It's about love. It's a lover. It's not a fighter. Whereas Aquarius, ruled, well, I won't say ruled by Uranus, but co-inhabited by Uranus, is a fighter, usually for causes. And so the individualistic, dispassionate nature of Aquarius clashes with Venus, the planet of relationship. Now here, the Five Swords are arranged in a pentagram again, which points downward, which means that some balance is lost. The pentagram standing on its head here, as outlined by drops of blood. Old wounds may be coming to the surface, and they are bleeding anew. Now the swords are curved, that is, they are injured, they are out of harmony. And each sword's handle here, if you look at the different handles, or grips I think they call them, they might indicate a different aspect of this situation. The fish that you can see represents the past. The sleeping snake shows that there's no renewal going on. You're not letting the thing die. You're not burying the past in the grave. The downward pointing sword symbolizes a lost awareness, I think. And the ram's horn shows that new impulses might be lacking, and there is a fear that you are not putting things in motion. And the seashell expresses you're feeling a need for protection. Fear dominates the moment. Fear of defeat, perhaps. Might be connected with relationships, or more generally with the beginning of something which is of great importance to you. It is the fear of losing control, of experiencing the feeling that everything is slipping out of your hands. So the essential element of this energy is that of fear, and that is distorting your view of the present and of the future. Now, this can relate to something where you may have been betrayed, or there was a sneak attack upon you by someone that you trusted and didn't expect to be your enemy. Your fear could, as I say, be the result of losing control emotionally due to previous hurts from relationships, or it may be connected with the workplace where you've had experiences that stop you from expressing yourself fully as your confidence has been lost. Let go of the feelings of fear. They are thoughts. Think of who created thought. If you let go of that fear, the energy which is bound up in this pentagram is released. Now, Aquarius in here, Aquarius is directed towards the future, and the challenge for you is to make room for your own objectivity and clarity. And that clarity is signified to me by this blue border that's there. And to do this despite any fears of defeat, which are unfounded. And the white in the center of the painting represents the bright spirit breaking through and allowing you to push through the bullying, empty shirt of fear. But the fact is that because this has come up in your spread, you are now ready to see your fears. Fear is irrational in nature, which means that it doesn't really reflect the real situation. By recognizing this, you will be set free, and all those energies which have been bound up in your fear, they are released, and they release you towards success and achievement. And if you are afraid of seeing control slipping out of your hands, remember, the feeling that you are in control is actually an illusion. Seeing, describing, understanding, naming, accepting, and letting go of your fear will set you free. Say this to yourself: I am not my fears. It is safe for me to live without guarding and defending myself all the time. When I feel afraid, I open my heart and let love dissolve the fear. And I accept fear. I've seen it before. I have conquered it, and now I let it go. Now I'm going to turn to what's crushing that and bringing about changes in you. This is fantastic Scorpio card, probably one of my favorite paintings in this deck, as it turns out. Let's have a look at it. Now, first thing I'll say this is that the death card does not mean a physical death, but it does point to a radical external transformation. I think now old relationships are demanding to be disintegrated. Now, this process could be bound together with painful experiences, it's true. However, because you've drawn this, it shows that you are ready to do it. The act of letting go, difficult though it may sometimes be, is actually going to free you. Now, death shows two faces, one destroying and tearing down, the other freeing you from old bonds which have become confining, preventing life. Now, which of these aspects is going to predominate for you is going to depend on your attitude, the way you look at things. Remember, your life is what you think it is. And any desire to hold on to or cling to old, useless bonds is going to cause their death to appear that much more agonizing. When you have let go, when you have renounced things, and when you listen to the guide that is in your heart, then all can be won. You will be winning. There is no more fear, no more danger when you let go. Now, just to look at that painting again, let's have a look at it. It's good, isn't it? This is a great Scorpio card, as I say. It's dominated by the skeleton, black, with its scythe, ready to mow things down. Now it's poised like a sort of a coiled spring, about to set in motion change and transformation by you. Now this scorpion, which is at the bottom of the picture, holds its tail ready to sting, and the blossoms in the water that are down there in the mud, well, I think they're the lily, and the water lily and the holy lily, and they lie dying in the mud, from which at one time they grew. Now the next stage of Scorpio is that of the snake, which you can see here, and that is a symbol of transformation. It is prepared to deliver the deadly bite when appropriate. The fish, which for me speaks of the old past, could well become its victim. And I think things are changing. There's new life coming into you now. This is also a symbol for Pisces, as you might be aware. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it's about to change into... The last decan of Pisces has Mars as its ruler, which gives it energy to push into the first sign of spring, being Aries, and the first decan of Aries is ruled by Mars, both of which, of course, Mars is your planet. Now, I think you need to remember that the phoenix, which you have probably heard of, well, it can only rise after the fire of transformation has consumed everything, turning it to ashes. Now, the skeleton's wearing it looks like the stuff that they used to wear in ancient Egypt, a funeral head covering that used to be used back then. And I think that refers to the need, the necessity of carrying old ideas and concepts to their grave now and burying them. These old cords and bonds, well, they're being cut. And you can see imprisoned souls being set free after these cords have been cut. Now the eagle, which is the final stage of Scorpio, as you may well know, it is the final stage of transformation, and it is unfolding its wings and rises. Now something definitely is being cut away by you now. Something is dissolving, it's disintegrating. Whether it's a structure that you have created, or a pattern of thought, or a habit, or a way of thinking about yourself and the world. This is necessary, of course, so that new beginnings can come about. It's a great period of transformation where you do face your darkest fears and you overcome them, because you know that the darkest hour is just before the dawn. Don't ever be afraid of the darkness. You know it. You've seen it before. So embrace it and say, I'm stronger than you. And you know that in order to grow and abandon the old, death is your protection against stagnation. And I think now you are being forced to leave behind maybe people, situations, things that you have outgrown. But I think you're ready to make the necessary changes in your life and accept the pain that might come with the loss of the old. Ask yourself this: to what outdated relationships or situations are you still clinging? Say this to yourself: I let go of people and situations with ease and dignity. Every ending heralds the new beginning. I now say yes to death and yes to myself. And where does that take you to? Such an invigorating process, one bringing you comfort, peace, optimism, success, abundance, happiness. Let's have a look at this, which is, what's it called? Princess of Wands, who I call the Princess of the Shining Flame, the Rose of the Palace of Fire. Do you know, I really get a lot of Leo, Virgo and Cancer energy around here. I think they are going to be people who are important to you at this time. What this energy is saying here is that you are being freed from fear. There are new beginnings, there's optimism, and an increased awareness and understanding of things. Fear is conquered. This princess, actually I'll tell you something interesting about this card. This deck was banned in American prisons for about 10 years after it first came out because of this particular card. So here the princess is naked. She's open, unprotected. And this thing here, I have an association esoterically with fear. And she has vanquished, she has killed the tiger of fear. And this staff which she's holding up there, that bears the symbol of the sun. And these huge feathers on her head, well, I think that they show her increased perception and a sense of justice which she has gained by overcoming her fear. Now she's really dancing, isn't she? She's dancing the ecstatic dance in a huge flame. Now beside her, on an altar that's over there, which is ornamented with ornamented with ram's heads. The fire of spring, new beginnings, burns high. And this fiery red background symbolizes passion, vitality, and flaming energy. Look, when you have got rid of fear, when you've conquered it, when you've told it that it has no value to bring to your life, then undreamed of springs of enthusiasm and joy bubble up, recharging your life. Only self-limiting fears, the tiger's corpse, well, they can be buried and forgotten. You see, your old fears have lost their power over you, and their dead remains cannot frighten you any longer. Now, reflect on your greatest strengths. I actually think that this is also saying that you are going to be a person of very wide-ranging passions of whatever kind, maybe even entirely reckless in the means of obtaining gratification of your passions. Some might even consider you to be somewhat insatiable, I suppose. What's also important here is that this is signifying to me that you are going to be extremely individualistic. You will create your own beauty by your essential vigor, life force, and energy. You will bedazzle people. Now, whether in anger or in love, I think you might be sudden and implacable. I think you're going to be very ambitious and, well, there is the chance here that you could be holding an irrational enthusiasm for somebody or a particular project, and you won't forget an injury. And the only patience that you will show is the patience through which you lie in ambush, waiting to spring your revenge. But you'll be very confident and daring and exciting, probably something of a nonconformist, freedom-loving. People are really going to love your character and energy. Now, what is the next step in your life? Find it fearlessly. Say to yourself, my greatest strength is, and write it down and say, as I accept my fear, it is transformed into love. And that takes us finally, I think, to this other lady here, who is the Princess of Discs, but whom I call the Princess of the Echoing Hills, the Rose of the Palace of the Earth. Now, the first thing I'll notice here is that her abdomen is rounded, which is an indication that she's pregnant. This is a really good card for motherhood, actually, probably alongside the Empress and the Queen of Cups. But in a broad sense, I think she and this energy can be interpreted as the mother of a new identity, a new idea, a new concept. Now, she's holding this disc in her left hand, whose center is it's a yin-yang symbol for perfect balance. And from this center of utter balance blooms the rose of the great mother of fertility. Yin and yang, female and male, in harmonic balance. Well, they provide the proper environment for all the parts of your life to unfold afresh in a balanced way. I'm also looking at that staff that she's holding in her right hand. I think this must be important because it's going out beyond the border of the painting and up into the heavens, and it bears a light radiating crystal down at the bottom of it. Now, this crystal, or a diamond, represents the birth of the highest form of light. And the bearer of the light has been created in the earth, the darkest of all the elements. She is the earth, which is now able to bring light back to earth. Now you'll see she wears ram's horns on her head. These are a sign of entering into something new for you. Her hair is drawn into two thick braids, then falls free again. And that hair and the braids symbolizes, I think, the interlacing of three beings, mother, father, child, which brings obligations and commitment. But this interrelationship between those energies isn't an end in itself. Because after the necessary time of commitment, the three, like the hair in the painting, they unwind and they start to flow freely. Now, as a court, you'd expect her to have a throne. Well, I say that the throne is a grove of holy trees at the foot of holy mountains, and the earth in which the trees are rooted glows with the sacred yellow light of the Spirit, brought down from heaven to earth through this staff. The trees, for me, represent the unifying of spirit with matter. And when the new is given birth, the light is brought to earth. When you create, you bring something alive. Because the energy of the divinity and of the cosmos becomes visible through human life and action. And that energy impregnates everything with its divine quality. Now, something new is entering into your life. So prepare yourself. You're going to be very kind, I think, and you'll be following your will or your true purpose in life. So this is about getting in touch with that most important aspect of you and protecting it, just as the princess does with the trees here. Now, of course, it can relate to a physical pregnancy or a birth of ideas. But I think you'll find that you have a very productive time after what could have been a barren stretch. Great feelings of marriage and motherhood around here. Now, what must you do in order to be ready for something new to come into your life? Say this to yourself, because now it is true, having conquered fears, that I am now ready for the new beauty in my life. And you are beautiful.
I think you'll agree with me that this deck, when looked at properly the way that we have just done now, has an enormous amount to offer. And the artwork is just genius and brilliant, and that accounts for why it has lasted as long as it has. Anyway, unless I see you privately for a clairvoyant reading or a healing, then I'll see you again next month. And until then, remember one thing, and it is this, that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.